experience, where the church first cooperated with the fascist state and then it was persecuted. And I experienced this persecuted church for these 12 years. And then I had another great experience which also went into the critical theory, and that was the humanistic high school I went to in Frankfurt. So these are some of these experiences which made up finally that I became interested in that field and why we finally developed this. So then of course I was in the German Air Force. They don't pay me enough now for all the work I did. And I was in the German Army too, in the defense of the 2nd Siegfried Line, the 2nd Defense Line in Aschaffenburg. And I found recently a book in which my battle was described. And I suddenly found out how little I knew when I was fighting at that time in terms of the narrowness of perspective one has. I knew there was the mountain on which we fought, but it was not only one mountain, it was a whole mountain range. I knew that they were bunkers, but I didn't know it was a whole defense line of 20 miles and so on. So, and I'm always frightened, and that is part of the critical theory, that one has to make decisions at a time where one doesn't know anything. And that is fatal for the decisions very often. So then I was a prisoner of war here in Camp Allen, and I was that what we call nowadays Antifa, so anti-fascist. And so I was set free and I studied, and I came the first time in contact with the Frankfurt School because they had arranged a program for prisoners. Unlike Morgenthau, they didn't think that all Germans were bad, and so they chose from 300,000, they chose 20,000 who were anti-fascists, and they sent us home to transform the fascist state into a liberal state again. So I did this. I went back then after the education and went to the German Federal Republic. I participated in the foundation of the Christian Democratic Union with Eugen Kogon and Walter Dirks, and we wanted to have a Christian party which would bring the workers and the bourgeoisie together. But we failed. The workers didn't like the bourgeoisie didn't like the workers, and so Adenauer came in and transformed our party into another one in which Protestants and Catholics would be in the party, and on the other side the workers were pushed out and went to socialism and communism, and then communism was forbidden, so everything went a different way. But that the party was no longer just Catholic, like the Center Party, which had given Hitler the emergency laws. That was progress. So Adenauer definitely stabilized the country, the Federal Republic, in which I then did my work, for which I had been trained there. And so this was a wonderful time, but there was this disappointment that after this horrible catastrophe of 70 million people dead, that one did restoration. That what was there before and had produced all that horror was restored again. So the Adenauer period was a restoration period, and you know Merkel has won last week the election, so the Christian Democratic Party, which I was one, and I was particularly active in the party on the left wing, and we established all these beautiful social security and of course health care, which the Germans had since 1870 already, but was improved. So, and this is still to some extent the case up to today. So some of that work which we did remain. But we also know that the third strongest party which came with Merkel is the fascist party. And so that has, of course, made a great influence on my life. I was sent back in order to fight fascism, and by the 70, 60 years ago, the Frankfurt School, from which the critical theory comes, predicted that what is happening here now. So we tried to overcome fascism in Europe, and we were afraid it would come to the States. And so part of the critical theory is to find out who the resistance could be in the press, in the churches, in the universities, how strong that resistance would be. And in the meantime, we know that now, 70 years later, the resistance has been strong in Austria, in Holland, in France, and now also in Germany. But at the same time, these forces of 70 years ago have become powerful again. And the question is, there are people on the right now who think that Trump is not the real guy yet because he gave his daughter to a Jew, and so they want to have something more intense, and there is a danger that this will happen. So this sums it up with our critical theory work, and I studied then in Frankfurt, in the University of Frankfurt, where I became familiar with the critical theorists, with the main figures, and then I studied at Mainz, and I studied at Münster, and I went back once more to the States then for another course in anti-fascism and so at Catholic University, and there is where I met Margie, and we have a picture there of Margie with little Steve. Little Steve didn't want to go to the hot beach, and his mother pulled him a little bit, and I hope she pulled him into heaven as well. So I taught after this. I went back. I always had to promise that I would go back again and apply what I had learned here, and I kept my contract, so I stayed there, and then I worked in the German school system on all levels, including trade schools. There was a socialist arrangement that trade school people could go to the university, and I did a lot of work in that to bring carpenters and blacksmiths and so on. They could still go into the university system. So, and I had people who visited me here then. There was one who came, and he said he wanted to have his grade changed. I gave him a D for his German performance, and he wanted to have it changed 20 years later. But there was no change, it was merciless, but he made it anyway and had become a very good businessman and talks English enough in order to make good business. So then we came over here in 1962 and decided, out of the reason which I gave, we didn't come in order to get rich or whatever. We came, Margie and I made this decision, and it was a very tough decision. When we came to Baltimore, the Jesuits and so on said, how can you bring your children over here? They have this beautiful education in Europe, and now what do they have here? And so on. So, and then when we went to the West, and they said, now you really go into the wilderness. And the only place is Notre Dame. It's the only cultivated place where you can get support and so on. I think they were a little bit romantic. If the German education had been so good, it would have resisted fascism, and it did not. So therefore, I thought that in this educational system, we could produce some resistance against that, what we thought was coming. So then we came then from 1962-65. I studied with the Jesuits. Not studied, but I taught with the Jesuits, and I taught economics. And I found recently I found out why I did not stay in Baltimore. Why the Jesuit, Father Harden, came from here and went to his brothers in Baltimore and said they needed somebody like me at Western. At that time, Western was a theology department, which was against the Constitution. But after 3 years, they noticed it, and so they used Father Harden in order to get me from Baltimore, not in order to work with him, but to replace him, which was a big tragedy, and it was not very nice, the whole thing. So, nevertheless, that was the beginning here, and so from 1965 up to now, I'm here, and of course, we then, in the meantime, we also taught in Canada and in the German Democratic Republic and other places and so on, but I always came back again, and twice I even went to Catholic colleges, but then decided to go back to Western, because I think that opposite to the public opinion, I think that state universities and state education is very, very important, and that there should be some private education for particular purposes, that is okay, but in general all citizens should be educated in the same way, should have the same opportunities and so on. So therefore, I decided. I was also once invited to be a chair down there south of Chicago. It was a university which was owned by the Caterpillar industry, and I came in there, and the president was sitting in a glass house and had a wonderful life, and the salary was much better. But I thought that to get out of the private sector and go to a state university was more worthwhile, and so I came back here again, and other opportunities. So now I would not only, just a short memory of what happened, but I think part of a celebration like this is also express my gratitude to all those who have made this possible, have made the development of the critical theory possible, its teaching, and the literary work we did and spreading it and so on. So I would like to thank first of all Karen, who is sitting right here, who is the captain of the whole ship. Nothing would have happened without her, at least in the last 32 years and so on. So I'm tremendously grateful to her, and we should have a toast to her for her wonderful work and care all these years.
Cheers.
And I also want to include Ken into the whole toast, because Ken has become the father of all apps in my classroom there. So the Ayatollah came maybe a year ago, a Shiite, and he said that I was the father of all apps. And I said, no, I'm the grandfather. No, he said, you are the father. Well, now we have the father, and I'm the grandfather. So then I would like to thank Bill and Karen together for doing this House of Peace. Without the House of Peace, there would be no critical theory. So they already cooperated in 2000, and now again we have broadened it further. And here is our great architect, our genius. It is a work of art. If you look from inside or outside, in both cases it is beautiful. So a toast to Helen and to Bill, and thank you for your great work through the years.
Congratulations. All right.
Bill was always there during the years, through all these years. Whenever there was even the slightest thing, I could always call him for help. So he is a real Christian from Hackett High School. That's why he was great. And he speaks Latin fluently even today. Okay, then I would like to toast Dustin, who is together with his two colleagues, Mike, here, who is a great example for them, and Walter. And so Dustin defended his thesis. We went up together to Michigan State University, and he had his defense. All three of them contributed to the development of the critical theory, so it wouldn't be the way as it is without them. And his defense was beautiful. He was better than all these professors there of Michigan State and so on. He didn't know what to say, anything more. It was great. It was a great experience. Okay, so therefore a toast to Mike and to Walter and to Dustin. And then I would like to thank also Agnes as the representative of the family. Agnes kept me alive for at least the last 20 years.
That's right.
Innumerable pills which I have to swallow all the time. But, nevertheless, it worked. It worked. That is important. Toast to Aggie. Yes. Thank you, Aggie.
Yeah.
And Paul. Good Paul.
Important job.
The pill pusher. We need more to drink. Running
Yes.
out of drink.
Okay, now we are moving into the future. So the 90s will start will start tomorrow, and of course we have never been there, and therefore it is interesting. my friend Martell, he was a strong believer, but also very open to atheists, and he would always say, well, even if death is nothing, it would be very interesting to be there. So we have never been there. Okay, so I hope that we can still do our work for some time, and that we can do our teaching, that we can do our research together for a little while in the new house of peace, and also that we can continue our peace work, which we do with the Russians. There is a hysteria against Russia going on in this country, which is not only stupid but very dangerous. So I'm in daily contact with St. Petersburg and with other places there, because this Hitler wanted to make Europe great again. He wanted to make Germany great again. But what he really did, he brought two great powers into the front of the historical process, and that is the Slavic world and that is the American world. They are in front now, and if somebody says, well, we are so stupid or whatever, the Greeks were much smarter than the Romans, but the Romans went beyond the Greeks and went forward. So we have a tremendous responsibility in this country in education and so on, not only for us, but for the others as well. There are 15,000 atomic bombs, hydrogen bombs in Russia, and the same way here. When the Russians are beautiful people, and we had the last 15 years, 20 years, they are warm in their hearts. Dustin went with me, and but if one says the wrong thing or does the wrong thing against them, then they can become very angry. And when they get angry, then you have Stalingrad, and then you have Moscow with 10 million people fighting in Moscow together. And when they get angry, there's nothing which can stop them. So, and that is what we try to do this peace work now. We had the Crusaders attacking Russia, and then we had Napoleon attacking Russia, and then we had 20 armies attacking Russia in the 20s. 8,000 Americans are still buried in Murmansk, and then they sent Hitler, who came with 4 million men, all good Catholics and Protestants, and killed 27 million Russians, plus 6 million Jewish people. So we remember the 6 million Jewish people, and that's good. We should do that. But we shouldn't forget the 27 million Russians which Hitler murdered because they were communists, because they wanted to have equality and so on. So that is, I hope that we can continue this and that it will succeed, and that we can do something in education and through our writing and so on to overcome the hysteria, which will be very, very dangerous for us. So that was the life, that were the 80 years, and I thank you so very much for coming. 90 years, 80 years are gone, yeah. And I thank you for coming and for our celebration, and I hope we will continue to cooperate so beautifully as we have done. Okay.
Here's to
Ready.
Thank you.
They have 90 more.
Yeah, for everybody.
That's
for 90. 90.
I've chosen 95. We're having Peggy. That's her pop. Here.
Well done. Well done. You.
I'll go longer if it's okay.
Thank you. I don't count because I'm a foreigner.